Is the media showing bias against the Dominican Republic in the crisis against Haiti in this interview? I say so. Let's check it out. What's up, everybody? My name's Jamie Gruber. I moved to the Dominican Republic in 2022 with my family, and I share all of my experiences down here. And one of the things that's really become kind of very present to me is how the media has shaped the narrative around this country. Not even with what we're going to get into here, the Haiti-Dominican crisis. I mean, it has, but not even just that, but just generally. Here's a quick example. Woman mysteriously dies in flight back from the Dominican Republic.
Her death coming as a complete surprise.
Public. Minutes into her flight home, she lost consciousness.
Now, it turns out this lady had a stroke, which is tragic, and she passed away after an emergency landing somewhere in the Caribbean. But the headline implies that,
ooh, she was in that third world country.
Or whatever the perception might be. So it must have been something she ate or drank or something that happened there. Remember the bad alcohol story from a few years ago that really didn't turn out to be the truth? And my problem with that is all this sort of headline does is hurt the economy down here. People don't come here. That means people that work here in the tourism industry don't get paid at the low income all the way to the high income. And really it just sullies the reputation of a country that doesn't deserve it. Man, I've talked to so many people that say, oh, I hadn't been back in years and oh my God, it's such a different place. Like I said that. It had been from 2016 to 2022 that we hadn't visited because of COVID and kids and a bunch of other stuff that was happening in that time. And it was like a completely different place when we got back here. That's after coming here from 2008 to 2016 multiple times a year before we had kids. But anyway, Al Jazeera sat down with the foreign minister of the Dominican Republic and conducted this interview about a month ago as I record this regarding the Haiti crisis and all that's happening at the border. And I don't know, when you watch the interview, you need to tell me. I feel like she's coming after him unfairly. Maybe she's just being a journalist, but it feels like activist journalism in my opinion. But I gotta admit, the foreign minister, he can lob it back. He did a pretty good job diffusing a lot of her points. Wait till you see. Let's check it out.
I'm Lucia Newman in Santo Domingo. Concerns are worsening here in the capital of the Dominican Republic in the midst of a worsening security crisis in neighboring Haiti. Here on the ground, many fear the consequences of criminal gangs taking over much of the Haitian capital. The Dominican Republic is also confronting the human fallout of this crisis as it deports tens of thousands of undocumented Haitians across the border. So, what impact is the security crisis in Haiti having on this nation? And what steps will the Dominican government take to confront these challenges? In the next half hour, we delve deeper into these issues as the Foreign Minister of the Dominican Republic, Roberto Alvarez Gil, talks to Al Jazeera.
Hey, wherever you stand on this issue, I'm sure we all stand in a similar place. What can't be disputed, in my opinion, well, I guess that's sort of, well, anyway, what I don't think should be disputed is that it's very sad if you're just a person born in Haiti to be dealing with what's going on in Haiti. So when you see these pictures of trucks, and we see those trucks here all the time, taking masses of people back across the border to a land that has no opportunity when they're here in a land of opportunity, it is sad. Same time, I've stood by this the entire time. It's a sovereign nation here in the Dominican. They have to protect their borders. They have to protect their sovereignty. The tax dollars here need to go to the citizens. But from a humanitarian perspective, it does make me sad to see any people being deported or having to be rounded up like that, for whatever that's worth.
Roberto Alvarez, Foreign Minister of the Dominican Republic. I'd like to start by reminding everyone that you have said that no country in the Western Hemisphere has the security problems of your neighbor, Haiti. So what does that mean for the Dominican Republic? Because you are the only country that is sharing the island of Hispaniola with Haiti.
Thank you for the invitation, Lucia. It's a pleasure to be with you and your audience. That is correct. Because of the fact that we share a relatively small island of maybe 90,000 square kilometers total, of which we have 2/3 in Haiti, 1/3 of the island, because we are obviously being an island surrounded with water and nowhere else for any Haitians wanting to leave their country to go immediately. So the adjacent country is a draw. In addition, because of our economy, which has been growing for the last 50 to 60 years at a 5% clip, more or less, that is also an attraction, a big magnet. So, given the current situation in Haiti, where there is law and order has basically broken down, so the only place that Haitians can flee to immediately is towards the Dominican Republic. That is why we have up to 10,000 of our armed forces members at the border. We have to take care of the fact, because there is no interlocutor on the other side, of the fact that thousands of criminals were set loose, even recently, up to 3,600 from the national jail, of which many are murderers, convicted murderers, rapists, even some who were involved in the assassination of former President Moïse. So it is indeed an issue of national security to the Dominican Republic.
All right, before we go on, maybe not the only one. I'd love to hear if anybody else is thinking the same thing right now. Two things. One, this dude's English is really freaking good. Like, it's my first language, and he speaks it better than I do. And then second, I had to Google interlocutor. I had no idea what that was. It is a person who takes part in a dialogue or conversation. That makes sense. No interlocutor on the other side. Again, the guy's not only his English, but his vocabulary is better than mine, and I'm 45 years old. Eesh.
Well, you, Foreign Minister, are very well known for your very long career in the defense of human rights. And yet, as you very well know, Amnesty International, just to give one example, has just issued a press release accusing your government of de facto racism and of inhumane treatment of your neighbors, of Haitians. How do you justify, for example, the deportation of tens of thousands of undocumented Haitians that have been living here in this country when they very clearly are facing danger if they return home?
Has anybody seen that Amnesty International article, by the way? Gotta piss me off. I did a reel over on Instagram on this, like, yeah, Amnesty, here's how you make change. You go to a country and you don't say, hey,
we see that there's this humanitarian issue with your neighbor. We want to figure out how we can help and meet with government officials and find a way to rally the international community on behalf of DR, which they've been trying to do.
No, instead, let's write an article and call y'all a bunch of racists. That's how you get shit done. That'll do it, right? That's how people are going to be like,
Oh, we're racists? Okay, well, we didn't know until you told us, so we're going to bend to your will, Amnesty.
What a garbage article that was. If anybody saw it, you can go Google it and find it. Maybe I'll drop it in the comments below. No promises, but crappy, cruddy article. And the fact that she's doubling down on it already makes me annoyed with her. But let's see.
Well, let's address three issues that you've just mentioned. One is racism. That is completely false. We have a totally different history in our national independence and the way that our economy was developed and our identity. Meaning, we never had a plantation society in the Dominican Republic, unlike Haiti, unlike the United States, and unlike most CARICOM countries. That was never the case in the Dominican Republic. I don't want to get into the reasons why, but we can. So we developed as really a mestizo or mulatto nation. 73% of our population is mixed blood, 16% black, 11% white. So there's never been within Dominicans a distinction as to race. That is completely false, number one. So there are no policies which you can point to that establish us as a racist country. We deport people who are illegal in the Dominican Republic, just like any other country. All countries in the neighborhood, I don't want to get into naming them, but all of them are also deporting Haitians.
See, that's smug. I don't know.
Back to their countries. Now, that does not mean that we deport everyone. We deport, there are a considerable number, hundreds of thousands of Haitians in the Dominican Republic who are not bothered. But the numbers, the increasing numbers, given the situation in Haiti, is something that we cannot shoulder. We cannot shoulder the total social needs of Haiti. We have our own population, which is our basic responsibility.
Boom! And I think, honestly, the United States needs to hear this a little bit as well. They have their own population to shoulder the burden. That's the reality of what a country is. You have a population, you tax that population, you have income for that population to provide social services for that population. Can't do it for everybody. I get the humanitarian side, I really do. But this is where the international community needs to intervene. Dominican Republic is itself a developing nation, so to ask it to be the sole arbiter and holder of all things Haiti is just not possible. Let's see what she says.
Would your government not consider a humanitarian corridor, for example? We know that people in Haiti at this moment are going hungry because of this crisis. Is that not something you would consider?
Well, first of all, the border markets are open completely. There are more than 50 markets. There are 4 main ones, but there are over 50 other smaller markets where Haitians were not for those markets. The level of hunger in Haiti would be far greater. So thousands of Haitians come to those border markets on a weekly basis. Now, you have to understand, today, the airport is closed. The port is basically closed. So how can you get any humanitarian assistance? So of course, we're more than willing to help with humanitarian assistance. The question is how? If you have trucks going through land, through the roads, they are controlled by the gangs. We've had sort of scores of Dominicans who have been kidnapped by the gangs in the past. So of course, we're more than willing to help with the international community with any humanitarian assistance. But the question is being asked, why isn't the Dominican Republic shouldering the bulk of it? That is not, we can't. We're a developing country as well. Even though we're richer than Haiti, that doesn't mean that we are a rich country either.
That's a really good answer. That's a great, great answer. It's to the point. And he's right. On the other side, it's tragic, but there is no real good way to get humanitarian aid in. This is what the international community is struggling with for sure. So for Al Jazeera to come to little Dominican Republic and imply that, oh, it's on you to do it. Maybe they're not implying that. Maybe I'm getting a little defensive here of the country I live in. Sorry if I am. But the point is for Al Jazeera to be kind of pushing DR as like, well, you're here. Shouldn't you be? You've got money. Shouldn't you be doing something? This is like that rich uncle or rich relative that actually they work their ass off to get to where they are, and now suddenly they're lucky and privileged and they need to provide for the rest of the family. Garbage. DR's done that. DR has worked their ass off to become a developing or even almost developed nation. They've worked their ass off. I've seen it over the last 15 years that I've been coming here. So to all of a sudden say, well, oh, don't you have enough now? Go help Haiti. It's BS.
But basically you're saying that the Haitians are on their own.
Well, unfortunately, that's precisely why we've been going to the international community, the United Nations. All of these years, we've been calling the attention of the international community. We've been crying out. It's the time now, what President Abinader said in September of 21, he shook the tree at the United Nations General Assembly. Unfortunately, that was after the assassination of President Moïse. We are not the creators of the Haitian situation. There are many actors who have a lot more at stake in this situation, not in terms...
Who's he talking about there, you think?
Not in terms of national security. We are the ones who do have the greatest at stake in that realm. But in terms of who are the actors that have a greater responsibility for the situation in Haiti, it's not the Dominican Republic. So we're willing to do our part. We have been doing our part. But the international community has not stepped up to do theirs.
I understand that the Biden administration had promised something like $300 million at least, and in fact a bit more, to help in this situation. But that money, as I understand, hasn't been distributed yet. What's happened?
The United States is an essential actor in resolving and solving part of the Haitian crisis. They have in the past, they have been an actor, and they will continue to be one. Fortunately, CARICOM has also stepped up at this point in time. But as you rightly point out, the international community has pledged, but not actually deposited yet, the funds in the Haiti Trust Fund at the United Nations. It's still lacking those funds. Hopefully they will be coming soon so that the countries that have offered police forces to integrate the multinational security mission can go to Haiti and aid the Haitian police as soon as possible.
I understand that, but what is preventing it? What is stopping it or delaying it? Is it because the Congress is not authorizing it, or is it because they don't believe that there's anyone who they can have as an interlocutor right now in Haiti?
You would have to ask that question to the U.S. authorities directly, Lucia. I don't want to speculate as to the reasons why they've not moved any faster. I do know that they may be sort of soon, very soon, moving in that direction. But again, you have to talk to our friends in the U.S.
Anybody know? Because I haven't seen it. I was looking it up. I don't know that this account has been funded yet by the U.S. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I completely missed the article on it. But as I'm recording this, a month after this interview was done, anybody know? Is that $300 million in play just yet? Be curious to know.
Well, I'm not just referring to the United States. You did mention also that there are other governments that were willing to send in a police force, a military force, in fact, to help, to prop up the very, very weak police force of Haiti, whatever is left of it. But that hasn't happened either. So there must be other concerns, other reasons.
Well, the way that the multinational force has been structured by the UN Security Council is a unique method. The Haitians did not want a peacekeeping force, a UN blue helmet force, which is what the UN is accustomed to doing. Had that been a peacekeeping force, it would be there already. Why? Because the UN has the expertise, the funds would come from the UN, everything, the operations, etc. But given the fact that the Haitians did not want a peacekeeping force, and that several members of the Security Council also did not want to pay any longer for another PKO, in that case, it had to be this unique force. It requires a lot of thought as to how to set it up. This is the first time that they're doing someone is supposed to lead, but then that leading country has to reach agreements with the Haitian government, and all the other governments also reach bilateral agreements. Then you have to have a coordinating unit somewhere who is going to be doing that. All of those are being looked at the moment, as well as who is going to give the blessing of the legitimacy to the successive government. There are a lot of questions at stake that are very difficult to answer at the moment, and that is perhaps why it's so complex to do this transition.
Now, I believe at this point, if I'm not mistaken, there is an interim government in place, or a government that was elected or propped up, if you will, in place. I don't know much more about it in Haiti, but as I record this, I believe that's happened. By the way, they've mentioned the CARICOM nations a few times. This is like a force of Caribbean nations, if you will, or a coalition of Caribbean nations. If you're wondering what that is, here are the countries that are part of it. It is Antigua, Barbuda, Bahamas, Barbados, Belize, Dominica, Jamaica, Grenada, Guyana, Haiti, Montserrat, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Lucia, Suriname, Trinidad and Tobago, and 5 associated states. EEL was a state. Bermuda, Cayman Islands, British Virgin Islands, Turks and Caicos Islands. That's a new one to me.
I suppose one could argue that there is no government in Haiti. The prime minister is no longer there. He says he's resigned. The gangs are in charge of 80% at least of the capital and other parts of the country as well. So who is there to, as you say, your country also doesn't have an interlocutor. Who is it possible to set up a stabilizing government, interim government, that has been, as I understand, in the works now for, not just now, but for the last year, without any success?
Well, let me clarify a few things. Number one, there is a government in place. Very precarious, but there is. When Prime Minister Henry left the country, he designated an interim prime minister who is still in place, and that is the finance minister, who is the acting prime minister, with the Council of Ministers. Formally. Prime Minister Henry has not been able to return to Haiti. But he said, when he offered his resignation, he said, I will resign when the presidential transition government is installed. So he has still, formally, he has offered to resign, but he's still technically the prime minister in exile or abroad, if you will, not in exile because he's not able to return to his country, but there is a government. Now, when I said there is no interlocutor on the other side, in terms of, first of all, of who is in charge of law and order, there is no one at the border on the other side trying to establish that, and you don't know who the other person on the other side, who may be armed or not, who they are, is not easy to determine. Number one. Number two, as you said, 80% of the capital is in the control of gangs, but there's still 20% of the government still precariously there. And that is what is required to maintain that semblance today of law, of still a government, so that they are able to hand over to the new provisional council.
I think you would
might be a little overly technical there. It's chaos, but I get what he's saying. It's like,
hey, look, it's not quite.
It's not like there's no government, but man, it's.
agree that Haiti is living through perhaps one of its worst existential crises. What would happen if this becomes catastrophic and millions of Haitians feel they have to flee? Where would they go?
Indeed, we think that this is the most profound existential crisis that Haiti has faced, no doubt. Everyone seems to be in agreement in contemporary terms in the last 60, 70 years. Number one. Number two, in terms of a stampede of Haitians, that hasn't really occurred.
Not yet.
Up until now, well, you had, remember, an earthquake in 2010 that killed up to 300,000 people and left the capital Port-au-Prince in total shambles, and the country in inoperative terms.
But the whole world came to Haiti's aid, at least at
the
time.
Including the Dominican Republic, who were the first responders to the Haitian crisis. But then there was no stampede. There have been other hurricanes, other earthquakes, and that hasn't occurred either. So we don't expect that to be happening anytime in the immediate future. But we also, in the Dominican Republic, we have a plan in case something of that nature were to happen. Our security forces do have a plan. We would have to have something of that sort, but we don't expect that to be the case. So, but still, that's why we are crying out for the international community to step in. It's really late in the game in order to establish some basic law and order in Haiti.
Very much so, I would say. But could I ask you, what is your plan?
Unfortunately, I don't know it because it is a plan which is privy to the security forces. I do know that it exists, but I can't go into it.
Even if he does know, it would be silly of him to just share like, oh, well, yeah, so if they breach here, what we'll do is this, and just project to the other side exactly what's going to happen. I mean, that would just be crazy. I'm sure he has some sense of what the plan is. But yeah, it's funny. Like, there's a fair point that she made here, to be honest with you, and that is that prior incidents in Haiti had some rallying of the international community. Airports were open, that sort of thing, where it's not right now. So this is a real threat. That said, I do trust and believe that the Dominican Republic has so much going for it. Like, this is the number one threat it faces, and I believe whatever plan it has is probably pretty comprehensive. That's my take. I don't know. Some of you may not trust the Dominican government to deliver on something, but look, you may not trust because of corruption or sins of the past or whatever it might be. But I'll tell you what, one thing that I always trust, I think, is if it's the border, man, they're doing their absolute best. There's some people that leak through. There's corrupt border patrol folks on the Dominican side that are taking money from Haitians and letting them come in and all that stuff. But by and large, I mean, it's unfortunate and sad to see, but I see here all the way on the east coast of the island of the country, I see Haitians being rounded up. Sometimes they just pay the border guy and they get to go, don't get me wrong, but it is a real thing here. It's palpable. You can feel this posture, if you will, that the Dominican Republic government has toward the border, toward security, and so on. So anyway, that's just my take. Let's hear what else.
But tell me, your government, your president has said in no uncertain terms that the Dominican Republic would not allow refugee camps of Haitians, even temporary refugee camps, because of, quote, security and historic reasons. What does that mean, especially the historic reasons? How does that weigh in?
This is big right here.
First of all, Lucia, there are only two countries in Latin America that did not achieve their independence from Spain. That is Panama and the Dominican Republic. Our independence happened from Haiti. We declared what we call an ephemeral independence in 1821. And within a month or so, Haitians occupied our side of the island as well. So we were under Haitian occupation for 22 years, from 1822 until 1844, when we declared independence. But then, for the next 12 years, Haitian armies continued to invade the Dominican Republic, trying to recapture the country. So this is one of the fundamental reasons that perhaps the international community is not aware and doesn't understand this particular part of our history, that we have this fraught relationship in terms of our independence and our identity as two very needed separate entities in such a small space. So we cannot allow, when you have a country that has a very different culture, very different language, very different customs, to come into your own country in such large numbers as we already have, and use our social services, use our space to a point where frictions are created inevitably.
Can you imagine what would happen? Just imagine. I don't know if there's a place on Earth like this, but let's just dream it up for a second. There was a place where a population that doesn't share the same language, the same customs, the same values, well, our country decided to allow en masse tens of thousands, like a day, of people like that across the border into the country, and then to use the social services of that country. Boy, if that ever happened anywhere in the world, it could be pretty chaotic. Don't you think?
And that would be a refugee camp, where refugee camps, we know, look at Palestine, look at the temporary provisional refugee camps in Palestine. They have been there forever. And so that is one of the reasons why we cannot allow refugee camps in the Dominican Republic. Besides, the cost, the burden of that would be insurmountable for us. We have our own population as a priority.
Well, everyone seems to agree on the need for very rapid stabilization, for a very rapid stabilization process in Haiti right now. And yet, over decades, I have seen, and you have seen, a vicious circle of political and security chaos in Haiti, followed by international intervention, then a new government, then the International Stabilization Force leaves, and then there's chaos yet again, and then there's another intervention, and this goes on and on and on. It never seems to end. What is the solution?
That's a great question. It is a great question. But the problem is, I feel like it's being pointed at, like, how are you going to solve it, Dominican Republic, in some way? Maybe not by her right now, but just generally speaking, it's like, hey, your neighbor's a little crazy. What are you going to do about it? It's like, hey, look, at the end of the day, Haiti's got to figure things out for themselves. You know, it's harsh to say, but like, the country needs to stabilize somehow, some way. Now, the international community does need to intervene and come in and help out and all that stuff. But man, oh man, like, can't put it on one country to solve another country's issues. You know, it's just, this is the part that gets me a little bit sideways with interviews like this. The implication, and maybe I'm being sensitive, but the implication that the DR owns this somehow, it just bothers me. It bothers me a ton. When he was saying about, like, you know, we set up refugee camps, like, they don't go away. This is the classic tale of, like, no government program when implemented ever goes back. Like, once Social Security came, once anything came, it doesn't go away. Like, that's just a known thing. So his point is like, hey, look, we start down this slope, this slippery slope. It doesn't stop. It's not like, okay, set them up and now we take them down and send them back. It just doesn't work that way. So it's a really practical, good answer, to be honest with you, to the question, because we all know when government creeps forward, when government creates something, government doesn't retract back. It just doesn't happen.
For Haitians to wake up, smell the roses, the Haitian, particularly the Haitian political, business, religious, all elites and understand that they have to get together, stick to a national plan, and really come together, because no one, you can bring in aid temporarily, but no one is going to be able to fix permanently the Haitian situation for them.
That might be hard for some people to hear, but that's facts. It's sad, and I realize saying this as a guy not born in Haiti, maybe that doesn't carry a lot of water, but it is the truth. It is the reality. I can't even imagine what people in Haiti are going through. I can't, and I wouldn't ever want anyone to. I don't. However, this is such a complicated issue. What he said is accurate. There are leaders in any nation, in any community. There are leaders, and those leaders need to align, rally, and start to figure things out. He's spitting game, in my opinion. Like, I don't know where he's wrong. Tell me where he's wrong. Drop it in the comments. Somebody tell me where he's wrong. And look, my role is not to be the arbiter of this conflict. I wasn't born here. I have obviously in-laws here. I'm married into Dominican society and culture, if you will. I'm not like, oh, look at me. I'm the Dominican. Haiti sucks. Nothing like that at all. I don't believe any of that. But what he said is real, man. Like, and this is, I think, this is like life in general. Anyone that's a victim to anything at some point needs to say, hey, look, there are people that are born with nothing that have everything today, and there are people that are born with everything that end up with nothing, right? There are people that are born at different ends of life's escalator, right? Born near the top, they got to take 2 steps and they're there, and all they do their whole life is sabotage and fall down to the bottom. And there are people born with nothing at the very bottom of the escalator, and they claw and climb their way all the way to the top. He makes a great point. The Dominican has been through some stuff, and they've come out in a way now that's, you could see the progress and the development, even though there were occupations, even though there was a broken society at one point. Haiti is, they used to be more developed than the Dominican. And now there is this need for responsibility amongst, like he calls it, the elites, the business leaders, whomever in Haiti, to rally and put together something that is sustainable over time.
Economically.
Well, you just mentioned I don't know if you're being fair. I mean, we've got the elite, which manages the country, which is responsible for the governance or the lack of governance. And then you've got a population, much of which is illiterate, starving, and being kept under the boot of successive military dictatorships and other forms of force. Right now, they are armed gangs. So what can you expect from ordinary Haitians if the elite won't step up, as you say, and smell the roses?
We had a famous dictator for 12, I don't remember exactly how many years, in the 19th century, Ulises Hero, alias Lili, until 1899 when he was killed. Then we had Trujillo for 31 years, from 1930 to 1961. So, no one can lecture us on the difficulties that we've had to face to come out of all of these situations. So every country faces they have their own particular history, their own particular needs, their particular moments of darkness, and they have to come out of it. You can't, who has a magical solution, Lucia? How can you get any country to look ahead and strive ahead and get out of the doldrums unless they themselves do it?
Well, I understand that, certainly these moments of darkness that you mentioned in the case of Haiti have been very long, and I can't really remember any moments of light. But you're going, again, I understand, very, very soon, or the Dominican Republic will again appeal to the Security Council later this month to do something. What is it that you expect?
To speed up the transition, hopefully, to deposit, as you said, the monies so that the multinational support mission can go to Haiti as soon as possible. Also to help in the international banks, multilateral financial banks, they have done analysis of the Haitian situation, whether the World Bank, the Inter-American Development Bank, the International Monetary Fund, they all have analysis and plans. But you can't do any of this. You can't put them in action until there is some semblance of law and order. That's one of the reasons why our 50%, almost 50, no, more than 50% of the Haitian population today suffering from some type of malnutrition. It's not because they cannot produce their food, it's because most of the lands are fallow. They cannot get the needed seeds, the financing, and there are no structures now that allow a normal development of the agricultural sector because of the gangs and the violence. So until this is stopped, Haiti is going, the World Food Program can help temporarily, but they can't solve hunger in Haiti by themselves.
It sounds to me that you believe and that the international community...
What an amazing interview. I took a lot from it. I saw this once before. I wanted to play it for all of you and just interject my thoughts on it. Again, very sad situation in Haiti, but actually I think a very measured response, at least from the foreign minister of the Dominican Republic, Roberto Alvarez Gil. I think it's a very measured response. I think it was appropriate. I think he stood up for the Dominican Republic in an appropriate way. As I record this right now, there is an international peacekeeping force. Not peacekeeping, but...
Some of these gang members are like, hey, man, these are like real military people coming in. Like, I'm all cool for ruling the nation as is, but I'm not cool with taking a bullet right now. So
there is seemingly, potentially, hopefully progress. Maybe a week or two after this is released, we hear great news out of Haiti that there's some level of control taken back, and that's what's needed. What he's talking about with past dictators, the international community did have a role in helping the Dominican get past that, and the Dominican took that gift and ran with it, and you see what the Dominican is today. Haiti needs to do the same, finally, once and for all. Hopefully, if this international force comes in and takes back the country, Haiti needs to prop itself up and drive itself forward. I hope it does, for the sake of those poor kids and these innocent people over on that side of the border. I really, really hope it does. That's my take on this interview. I took this as a little bit of a coming after DR about something that they don't own. They just don't. They own their own. We own. I live here. We own our own national defense on this side of the island. We owe to, do things in the most humane way possible, and I know that doesn't always happen, but boy, the idea that DR needs to stand alone and prop up a government while still taking care of its people and take in as many refugees as the international community wants is just plain ridiculous. This is a loaded issue. We'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Drop it below. Thanks for tuning in on this video.